And welcome back to another episode of Dogs on the Couch. Where everybody's allowed to have an opinion. It does not matter if you played the game you are watching. So you're allowed to have an opinion as well. First and foremost, please like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, subscribe is free of charge, doesn't cost you a thing. Helps grow the channel as well as push these videos into the algorithm so that like-minded people may have a chance to view them also. We set our first goal here on the channel. We'd like to reach 100 subscribers, and you personally can help us out and become family by hitting that subscription button. I greatly appreciate it. Now, with that being said, let's get into it. Topic for this particular episode, what happened? Game 4 of the NBA Finals. And also, how I feel like it may relate to the Cleveland Cavaliers and their quest to potentially reach an NBA Finals this upcoming season, or next season. So first and foremost, the San Antonio Spurs. Youth and inexperience. When we say that a lot, we think more specifically about just the roster. The players that are on the roster. However, their head coach has the same traits, okay? Youth as well as inexperience, all right? He's a heck of a coach, mind you. So I don't want that to be misconstrued. I'm just simply pointing out, youth and inexperience. Those are just factual statements, about Coach Mitch Johnson. So first and foremost, where I just was baffled, with Mitch Johnson is the fact that the Cleveland Cavaliers had given you a blueprint of what not to do when you're ahead 20 plus points in the fourth quarter against the New York Knicks. Kenny Atkinson and the Cleveland Cavaliers gave you a blueprint of what not to do when you're up by 20 plus points in the fourth quarter, in specific against the New York Knicks. And for some inexplicable reason, the Spurs pretty much did the exact same thing, personnel-wise and head coaching-wise, in their Game 4 loss that the Cavaliers did in their Game 1 loss in the Eastern Conference Finals against the New York Knicks. Pretty much the exact same recipe, the exact same process to lead to the exact same result, a loss. For the life of me, now I want to get this clear. I do understand why a lot of times as a coach, you want to try to have maybe 2 timeouts if you can towards the end of the game, latter part of the game. Maybe one is specific for, if it's tight, one or two possession game, or, or 1 or 2 point game, if you will. Maybe you want to have that timeout to be able to advance the ball, draw up a specific play. All right, understandable. You also would probably want to have another spare timeout in your pocket for, reviewing, challenging purposes. You know what I'm saying? Just in case there's a play, down the stretch, if the ball goes out of bounds and maybe it looks like it's off of him, but it's off of him, you want to be able to try to have a timeout, to challenge that. So I get it. I understand wanting to try to carry as many timeouts as you can. I get the thought process. I understand it. However, talk about this all the time. You have to have a feel for the game. Momentum is a real thing, and momentum is not in an analytical fashion. There's no way to put numbers behind that. My guy Luca made a great point saying you could possibly measure it in decibel level. You know what I'm saying? Touche, good point. But just for all intensive purposes, there's really no way to measure momentum. You feel it. You can feel the tide shifting. You can feel things changing. You know what I mean? Like you can feel the flow of the game being altered. Like that's, it's essentially what momentum is. And the same lack of feeling that Kenny Atkinson seemed to have for that in game one of the Eastern Conference Finals against the Knicks seemed to be the same thing with Mitch Johnson for some reason in his game four of the NBA Finals. He was, I guess, just really tied to holding on, to those timeouts during this extended period, this extended run, that the Knicks had, where, in my opinion, even though I understand what you're trying to do by holding on to the timeouts, I feel like it's more beneficial to burn one of those timeouts and stop the momentum. Stop the momentum or assess either what they're doing that you maybe can't stop, and that's why they're on such a big run, or maybe what you may be doing offensively that would help contribute to stopping them from going on such a run. So one of those things, in my opinion, if I'm not mistaken, there was a period where 8 straight possessions, the Spurs shot a 3. 8 straight possessions. You jack up a 3. You jack up a 3-pointer. So you just jacking up threes. Mind you, you have a 20-something point lead. 20-plus point lead. And you just jacking up threes. Not only that, some of them are early in the shot clock. 5, 7 seconds have gone off of the shot clock and you jacking up a 3. First of all, what's the rush? So, Mitch, that's what you time out. Hey, what are we rushing? Why are we rushing, y'all? Let's bleed a little bit more time off, even if we are going to continue to jack up these threes, which I don't agree with that. At least let's run some time off of the clock first before we jack up the 3. Okay? That would be for starters for me. Second, time out. Hey, get over here. Hey, let's stop jacking up so many threes. Okay? It's not beneficial. We're missing them. So instead of jacking up these threes and then you miss and potentially give up a long rebound and you're headed the other way, hey, man, let's try to get something going to the basket. Let's try to put pressure on their defense and then attack the basket. That way, even if we don't necessarily get to the basket and get the layup or get the 2-pointer, we also have a potential to get fouled. Okay? Then that can calm things down, slow the game down a little bit, get to the free throw line, maybe try to change the momentum a little bit that way. But we just keep jacking up these threes, and the game flow is continuously the same. We jack up 3 and miss, and then they go down and score. Okay, well, that's never going to work out in a positive fashion for us. Not the way the tide has turned, the way it's been moving. The way the tide has turned, it's like us jacking up these threes, they're not going in. I could see if we was on fire, like we had caught fire. It's like, all right, well, if you're on fire, keep jacking the threes up if they're going in. Again, I said it's about the Cavs. But if they're not going in, then we need to deviate. We need to deviate from that plan, because that's exactly what the Cavs is doing. Jacking up threes, and the next thing you know, your 22-point lead is cut to 12 or cut to 7. And at that point, it's almost too late to stop the momentum. The snowball has already built to a point where nobody's going to be able to just stand in front of it like this, put their hands on it to stop. It's like, nah, at this point, the ball already rolling. So it's extremely hard to stop it now. You got to catch that thing way before it get to the point where you went from up 22 to now you only up 7. Okay, now you want to call timeout. It's too late. Yes, too late. If you was up 22, when they cut it to 17, you should timeout. Come over here. Hey, let's get this together. Come on, man. That's 3 straight possessions. We done jacked up a 3, and we only took 5 seconds off the shot clock. Let's settle in, guys. Let's settle in here, okay? We don't need to be rushing the shot attempts. Let's work the clock, and then let's try to get a good shot. And if we can, let's get it closer to the basket. So again, Mitch Johnson, I feel like, probably could have done, a slightly better job, in those waning moments, with his coaching decisions, if you will, just based on, number one, the shot attempts that you were actually taking, and not only that, just the usage of the timeouts. You know what I mean? Like, utilize those timeouts, man, to not only stop the momentum, but to also try to get a new game plan together, understand what they're doing or maybe what you're doing, deviate from that, stop the momentum, and then come out with a new game plan to make them now have to adjust to you again. And the second part, I hate to put blame on one single player. And not only that, this specific player actually had, a phenomenal play in a previous game. So it's really, really hard to, to say this about this player in specific. Okay. This is also something that could have been coached as well, in my opinion. Okay. It's also something that could have been mentioned or just could simply be coached, in my opinion. Not only that, De'Aaron Fox has been in the NBA for quite some time now. So his basketball IQ should be at this level by himself without any coaching needed. The very last portions of the game, the latter portions of the game, there was I believe it was a missed field goal attempt. And then on the bounce around, the ball's bouncing around or whatever, people are trying to get a hand on it. The ball gets tipped out into the front court, bouncing, going the other way, towards the Spurs goal. So as De'Aaron Fox is running to get the ball, he's clearly ahead of, I believe it's OG Anunoby. He's clearly ahead of him, and he's going to get to the ball. However, OG is trailing him in the LeBron chase down block fashion. Like, that's the angle that OG Anunoby has on De'Aaron Fox as he's going to get the ball on his way to the basket, because the ball is headed directly towards the basket. So De'Aaron Fox just, there's a beeline straight to the ball, and then you get the ball, you can go right there to the basket and lay it in. The problem is De'Aaron Fox should not have tried to lay that ball up. You are up by 1 point. You gained possession of the ball, and when he gained possession of the ball, even though he's pretty much one step right here to lay the ball in, there was about 11, maybe 12 seconds on the game clock at the time that he obtained possession of the basketball. You're up 1. This layup is 2 points. You know what else is 2 points? If you get fouled and sent to the free throw line, you got an opportunity for 2 points there as well. Here's the difference, though. At that free throw line, nobody can block your shot. This layup that you attempted to take, De'Aaron Fox, it was pointless. It was pointless. It was pointless for you to make this layup right here. Because when you gathered the ball, there was about 11, maybe 12 seconds left on the game clock. So let's just say you do lay it in. All right, well, now you up 3, but they still got, it's 10 or 11 seconds left on the clock. So they got time to draw up a very good play to get a clean look at a 3-pointer to tie the game up. So you making this 2-pointer right here real quick, it essentially doesn't really do much. It doesn't really change much. You didn't really make a big wave with that. However, if once you attain this ball, if you had a faked like you was going to lay it up and just ran under the basket and then out and around to the three and come back to the top of the key, you could have wasted at least maybe 4, possibly 5 more seconds off of the game clock. And that's if the other team can actually get to you to foul you. De'Aaron Fox, you're one of the fastest players in the NBA. So it's hard for somebody to get to you, period. Just for starters, it's hard for somebody to get a hold of you, to get to you. So as fast as you are, you might have even been able to run 6 or 7 seconds more off of the shot clock. And needless to say, let's just say they get to you and you able to make a pass to someone else. So they tried to foul you, but you had already got the ball out of your hands. Now that's potentially another 2 seconds that you've run off of the shot clock. Then you get fouled, you get sent to the line. Now, instead of the other team having 10 seconds to be able to draw up their play to potentially tie the game, now they may only have 2 or 3 seconds, which means whatever set that they're going to run is going to have to be a whole lot quicker, and it's a lot less time to make these decisions. It's a lot less time to have off-ball action going on or anything like that. At this point, it's got to be a quick decision so that way you can make sure you get a shot up. So respectfully, man, De'Aaron Fox, that was just, to me, that wasn't it. Like, that wasn't it right there, man. That wasn't it. You know, that's a play that's very simple, man. That layup right there meant absolutely nothing. That layup meant nothing. It meant nothing at that moment. What was more important at that moment was maintaining possession of the basketball, because you're winning. You have the lead. And the game clock, the shot clock is off. The game clock is the only thing that matters at this point. So possess the ball. If you just possess the ball, you win. They literally have to foul you, because you could just possess the ball and run the timeout. So they have to foul you. So being as though they have to foul you, there's no need to attempt this layup. And then not only that, you attempted it with OG Anunoby trailing you, of all people. Long, lengthy guy who's known for being, a quick jumper and, pretty good on defense. Like, you really wanted to try him? Like, that's where it's just like you pick and choose your battles. Instead of me trying OG Anunoby who trailing me, and I feel like I could try him, like maybe I could get this up here this quick. Why even try that when I could look and act like I'm finna lay it up? I could just throw my arm up like that. I could throw my off arm up like this, act like I'm finna lay it up, and then just dribble on out. And then now it's up to somebody to catch up to me, to foul me, to stop the game clock. Because if you don't, game clock gonna run out and we win. Because if y'all don't know it, we up by 1 point right now. So De'Aaron Fox, I thought that was a critical error down the stretch, in my opinion. Because even with all of the errors, all the errors from jacking up threes, the fact the coach didn't use timeouts, you still had that game won. All you had to do was dribble the clock out. All you had to do was turn down what was perceived to you to be an open layup. You knew OG was behind you. You had to know. You had to hear the footsteps. At that moment, that's time to make a high IQ decision. Let me just dribble the ball up under here and not give him a chance to make this come from behind block. And then now, they got the ball going the other way and we only up 1 point. So any score at this point beats us. Whether they make a 2 or a 3, it beats us at that point. So in my opinion, it didn't make sense to try to lay that ball up there. And then here, I want to listen to a quick clip, courtesy of Get Up on ESPN, where Mike Wilbon and a couple other individuals discuss this whole analytical thing and how, like I've said before on this channel, sometimes over-relying on analytics can put you in some really bad spots. how sometimes over-relying on analytics can be the definition of insanity, because you're so reliant on the analytics that even when in real time it's not working, you keep looking at that analytics sheet, and that analytics sheet tells you, well, it should work, it should work, it should work. But when you watching it, it's not working, but you keep doing it. That's the definition of insanity. You sitting there banging your head up against the wall like this, and you think something finna change just because that sheet told you that it should work. Okay, well, if you watching it and it's not working, you need to deviate. You need to get out of it. Leave that sheet alone. Don't look at the sheet no more. You don't need the sheet at this particular instance. So let's hear what they had to say on Get Up, courtesy of ESPN and whatnot, and hear their take on maybe over-relying on analytics a little too much in certain situations.
It's also probably say, look, I mean, let's say it. The Knicks have come from 20 down in multiple playoff games because the other team keeps shooting threes. And Michael, I'm going to play right into, I'm going to literally put this on a tee and let you hit it, because analytics have a place in sports, but they have become in the minds of too many organizations the only thing that matter. So the time and circumstance of a game seems not to be taken into account. So the idea that the Celtics did this twice last year and let the Knicks come back and beat them, and now last night the Spurs just keep throwing up threes when all they need to do, as you pointed out earlier, was just run the 24-second shot clock to zero.
Analytics have replaced common sense.
Yes.
That's a dangerous place to be in any business, but in the business of sport, much of which makes no sense anyway. And that's why you have these great captains of sport, every sport, managers, coaches, people who, okay, I'm going to use this to some degree, but I'm not going to rely on it. I'm not going to become solely dependent on it. So to keep taking these threes, the Celtics played themselves out of the playoffs this year with that stupidity.
Right.
Very great point that Will Bond just brought up. The same way that I was speaking about, again, you don't even have to go to, because you go back to the Celtics from a couple of years ago, where that's one of the things, that the jacking up threes has cost them a couple playoff series because they just refuse to stop jacking up the threes. You go back to the Houston Rockets, the Harden days. If I'm not mistaken, it was one of them game sixes or the game sevens. They had a massive amount of missed three-pointers. They just kept jacking up threes, despite the fact that they're not going in. And at no point did you deviate away from that. At no point did you think to yourself, okay, well, this isn't working. Let's try something different. Only thing you could rely on was that analytical sheet that tells you that 3 points is better than 2. So either shoot a three or get a layup. Don't do anything else. Let's listen a little bit more.
And part of it. You know what? It's enough of it. It's enough. You don't need much.
The Spurs are also 2 of 14 in the paint in the second half. They just went dead. Like, you look at the stats in the first half to the second half, it's jaw-dropping. 76 to 30.
30. You never see that. Can I say something to you guys? It's just a bigger thought. We're getting ready for the draft coming up, and I know it's on the precipice of, Game 5 coming up. But, everybody's always into size and length and wings and defenders. And I'm like, have we lost the ability to find great game managers?
Yes.
Like Jalen Brunson is a great game manager to a degree. And you start thinking about who's the point guard, who's the game manager. That's one of the reasons I love LeBron. LeBron manages games. No,
definitely agree with that point by Jay Williams. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to get that clip, out there just to, to kind of tie into, again, how I feel this relates to the Cleveland Cavs and, how it could potentially hinder them this upcoming season in their quest to try to reach the NBA Finals. Because clearly, if you've been following me here on this channel, I have a certain feeling about Kenny Atkinson. Didn't believe that he should be brought back. And again, one of the main reasons that I felt like he shouldn't be brought back, similar to what we kind of just heard. It's very clear that Kenny is overly reliant on analytics. Okay. It was proven when Kenny gave the statement of all statements that we've heard from, a head coach here in Cleveland. I mean, it's probably up there with, the Freddie Kitchens response as to why he wore the F Pittsburgh shirt. And, he said because his daughters told him to wear it. And we, everybody like, okay, bro, you a grown man. You about to wear a shirt because your daughter told you to wear it, not knowing that you didn't know that you was about to tick off a bunch of other grown men in that Pittsburgh locker room when you wore that shirt. Like, how stupid is that? Number one, for you to wear the shirt, and number two, to come out and say that that's the reason that you did it. It's just ridiculous. Same thing with Kenny Atkinson. You came out and said, while you were down 3-0, you came out and said, well, analytically, we've won 2 out of the 3. If that's not proof that you're over-reliant on analytical data, I don't know what is. Because if you're down 3-0, you've lost all 3 of the games. Who cares that analytically you won 2 of them? You don't play the game on a data sheet. You play it on an actual court. So that's where the game has to be won, because that's where you play it at, on the court, not on a data sheet. So, another thing, kudos to Mike Brown for doing something that, again, Kenny Atkinson would not do, unless it's just back absolutely against the wall. Then maybe he may entertain it in the elimination game itself. Mike Brown played a combination in his backcourt that he hadn't played all year. He gave Jose Alvarado significant, crucial minutes and crucial key points of the game. And guess what? Alvarado made crucial plays too throughout that comeback. He had one where he drove into the lane. He kind of had got caught in no man's land, but he spun around and then did another spin and laid the ball up in for 2 points. Another one, they was over helping on Jalen Brunson because Brunson was cooking so much, so they kind of cheated off of Alvarado. The ball swings to Alvarado. He put the 3 up with confidence. Boom, it goes in. The coach had to, and Alvarado is famous for having a clip where when the players is mic'd up, Alvarado come bringing the ball up the court. I forget who the player is, but the player yell out, he like, can he shoot? Talking about Alvarado. He like, can he shoot? Alvarado, yes, I can shoot. You know what I'm saying? So that lets you kind of know how Alvarado is viewed. Like, you got players kind of poking fun at like, hey, can this guy shoot? Can he shoot? You know what I mean? And Alvarado with that confidence, with that, yes, I can shoot. You know what I mean? Confident in himself. And again, you got to have a coach who helps breed that confidence and keep your confidence high. Kudos to Mike Brown. Because again, one of the things from Kenny Atkinson is he refused to, use his bench players. Let me put this guy out here. Let me put Keon Ellis out here today, give him some extended minutes and see what he does. If he look good, I'm going to leave him out there. If you don't look no good, I'm going to pull him and then let me get somebody else a shot. Instead of just keeping all your bench guys' butts glued to the bench. Anybody that ain't Dean Wade, Max Strus, and Dennis, or Sam Merrill and Dennis Schroeder. Anybody that ain't them, they can't get no minutes. I don't understand that. In this one, Shamet had been getting a bunch of the minutes in our series, but in this series, Shamet might not have been shooting as well in this series as he did in the series against the Cavs. So Mike Brown has tweaked, moved around a couple other pieces. You know what? Let me throw Alvarado in there and see what I can get out of him tonight. Since Shamet ain't necessarily got, let me throw Alvarado out there and see what he can do, see what he can come up with. And when he got out there and he was doing decent, he was looking all right. He let him go. He let him rock. Not, well, let me hurry up and get Landry Shamet back in there, or let me hurry up and get one of my other favorite guys back in there. No, he just stuck with him. He just stuck with Alvarado to the very end. He just stuck with him. I'm gonna just roll with him. And his confidence seemed to be high right now. I don't want to mess it up. So let me just go ahead and rock with him and keep his confidence level high. That's something we couldn't get from Kenny. And respectfully, if Mike Brown doesn't notice that and make that adjustment, the comeback that they made might not have been completed. So again, that's a coach assessing the situation and then pulling the right strings to be able to get the job done. Last but not least, there's been swirling reports that of the players who aren't under contract anymore, and the team could be potentially looking to bring back, Dean Wade is at the forefront. Now, I've said this before, literally in one of my videos. I'm gonna try to go through my videos and see if I can get the clip and I can play it on a future, on a future episode. But I said this before. Number one, I didn't want to keep Kenny. And then I also said that I felt like if we kept Kenny, the very first move of order would be to re-sign Dean Wade so that Kenny could trot him out there for 30 minutes of basketball every night. Because he's obsessed with him. And I just can't understand why. Great defender, great defender, great defender, great defender. I get it. But respectfully, man, when you get into the championship conversations, you have to have a little bit more in your tool bag than just being a great defender. You have to have a little bit more in your tool bag than just being a great defender. Some ball handling skills wouldn't hurt. Being a consistent shot maker wouldn't hurt. Being able to create plays for others also wouldn't hurt as well. And the only thing that I'm simply saying is there are other individuals that you could have that provide those things and can give you some solid defense as well. Will that defense be analytically as good as Dean Wade's? Maybe not. Maybe not. But when we talking about trying to win an NBA championship, honestly, y'all, I don't see a Dean Wade on the New York Knicks team. I don't see a Dean Wade player on their team. I don't see a Dean Wade player on the Spurs team. And then respectfully, if they are on the team, they're not getting 30 minutes a night. Or Mike Brown isn't so committed to his Dean Wade player that he won't let Jose Alvarado get a shot at it one night and see if he's got it. And then on the night that he does have it, he leaves him in and leaves him in for the closing lineup as well. He doesn't go send Alvarado back to the bench and say, well, I got to have my closing lineup out here. So let me send you to the bench, Alvarado, and let me get my Dean Wade guy back out here. No. He looked at it and said, Alvarado, you playing good ball right now. So you know what? You finna stay in there to close the game out because I like what you've been putting down. So I'm distraught to hear the news, but honestly, I'm not surprised. Kobe Altman, Kenny Atkinson, it seems to be that the analytical, that analytical take. It seems to be the number one driver of what we do. It's like the number one thing that we go by. Potentially building the roster as well as, how we deploy our lineups, even the style of basketball that we play. Just tons of times we jacking up threes and we shouldn't be. And then respectfully, like Windhorst was saying at the closing part of that clip where he was kind of trying to say, like, well, yeah, but, the Spurs were also only 2, for 14 in the paint or whatever, what have you. Perfectly fine. Understandable. However, there's a big difference. When you jack up the 3, usually it leads to a long rebound going the other way. And you lessen your chances of getting a foul called. Whereas if you attack the basket, even if you miss, there's a higher potential that you get fouled and get sent to the free throw line. It's that easy. Take more time off of the clock instead of hurrying up and jacking up a 3. Take more time off of the clock, put more pressure on their defense, and you have a potential to get fouled and sent to the free throw line for 2 free shots that nobody can block. So, get prepared for what I would honestly say is going to be a very long season next year, because we already know that the Cavs are a great regular season team. So what they do throughout the regular season is going to be hard to get excited for and be so enthusiastic about and let's go Cavs. We've seen them do that for a number of years now. They are regular season champions. It matters what they do in the postseason, and dare I say, not even the first or second round. It matters getting to the Eastern Conference Finals and the NBA Finals. That's what matters. Do I personally think that Kenny Atkinson and his analytics, or bringing back Dean Wade over Keon Ellis and prioritizing Dean Wade and his minutes over the growth and development of a player like Jalen Tyson, do I think that those things will lead to success in the postseason next year? No. I personally don't think that. However, time will tell. Dogs on the couch, signing off.